This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network, an extension of the Archie Bray Foundation for the Ceramic Arts. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.
Hey, this is Erin with Cornell Studio Supply, located in the gem city of Dayton, Ohio. As a proud sponsor of this episode and the Brickyard Network, we are happy to help you with all your pottery and ceramic sculpture needs by providing the best customer service and world-class workshops. Visit CornellStudioSupply.com for 20% off the largest ceramic book selection of all time. At Cornell Studio Supply, we are owned and operated for potters, by potters.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Rosenfield Collection of Functional Ceramic Art. The collection exists as an online source for research and inspiration, featuring photos of thousands of objects made by over 800 artists. The images are high quality and can be used with no permission required, making them a great resource for students and teachers. To find out more, visit www.rosenfieldcollection.com. Hello, my name is Kathy King, and welcome to the For Flux Sake podcast. I'm coming to you from the Harvard Ceramics program in our fair city, Allston, Massachusetts. I'm here with Rose and Matt Katz of the world-famous Ceramic Materials Workshop, and they are ready to answer your burning questions about clay and glaze. Well, hey there, Matt and Rose.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
You are the brightest thing on this wintry day that I have to look at. Isn't that sad? No, I'm kidding.
I'm super depressed. So
It's only because Matt glows. I mean,
do you have seasonal
it's the skin condition.
Oh,
No. I used to living in New England. Yeah, it would get bad. As I got older, it went away. It's not so bad anymore.
Yeah, it's not so bad anymore, but I get out and do things more than I used to, I think, in the winter.
Yeah,
So,
you got to capture
that
those few hours that we have. But that doesn't mean I don't get the rages. And Kathy, I've got some rages going.
you do?
on.
Oh, do tell.
Okay, buckle in.
I'm exhausted. So you guys, come a little closer to your earbuds. I'm not going to scream. I'm going to be worse. I'm going to be creepy calm. I'm going to be that level of calm where you're like, oh, now I'm uncomfortable because Matt's
yeah. I feel like that all the time with you, Matt. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, you guys. If you have some way in your life for justifying the quality of your work, that is not an ASTM standard, give up. Seriously, just stop.
Now, remind everybody out there what those initials stand for, my friend.
The ASTM is the American Society for Testing in Materials. There are other standards organizations that aren't just the American, but we're Americans, so it follows. But I'm beat down right now. Because I won't go into all the details, but here at CMW, we had lots of people coming through to learn things. And we had a person try to make a point with us that was so exhausting. I just had to walk away and be like, no, I'm done with this conversation. So this person had come to us and they were insisting that they had a food safety test, I guess we'll call it. And they were in a twist because one of the glazes that we've published out in the world, the Katzberg Matte, you can find it on Glazy, didn't pass their food safety test. And they were so worked up about this.
Well, what was their test?
Well, what I don't know is the real answer. The longer answer is that they said that this was something that they were taught in college many decades ago, where if you rub a dry erase marker on your pot and you can't wipe it off again with like spit or like oil from your nose, I don't even know. But basically, if it didn't come right off, the glaze was not food safe.
Oh,
And like, I don't
And
know what to
why a
make.
dry erase? I mean,
yeah.
specifically, I mean, couldn't you say that with just like any marker?
This is a fascinating question, Kathy.
Oh, thank you.
These are the questions I ask myself at night. Why not a
Oh,
Sharpie? Like,
Yeah.
I really want to know.
so sad.
The more frustrating part is, so this person wrote in and told us how our glaze failed their test that they were taught as the official test. And we wrote them back and we said, well, that really doesn't mean anything. And, matte glazes do have crystals, which can entrap inks, and there can be some staining and stuff like that. And I said, that is not a relevant test. And then we, very nicely laid out, well, here are the ASTM standards for glaze durability. Here's the FDA standards. And we really tried to explain to them what this was. And then they wrote back and said, yeah, but have you tried it? And that's where I was done.
You finished the conversation politely, I'm sure. Yeah.
I think we're done here. Like, I don't have anything I can say to convince you that what you are convinced of is a fact. And that's really just the thing, everybody. And I know ceramics is stressful. And I know everyone is trying to get to something that makes them feel better about it. But, I was watching a video recently that was talking about, this whole thing that's become a thing on the internet for the last decade or so, which is do your own research. Go do your own research. And, the funny thing about the do your own research crowd is that never involves getting a PhD in research science. That involves poking around on the internet and finding some answers that they really like.
Dr. Google.
Dr. Google. And I know I'm just another voice on the internet. I have been to school for this. I've taught this for 25 years. Like, I know what I'm talking about. We have standards for a reason. And I brought this up before. Sometimes, you get into these arguments online where people will talk about toxicity, and I will reference the FDA standards. And the number of people say, oh, yeah, well, the FDA, of course they want you to believe that. Like, oh my gosh, everybody. Calm. Like, these things are standards for a reason. These things have been researched, and we know what they are. And I know it's hard to give faith to science and to best practices. And I know people are paranoid that, like, I don't know, that there's some conspiracy against them, but like, there are tests for a reason. And the ceramics community doesn't really use them. And I'll say, I've called it on the show before, I'll call it up before. Lemon test is a garbage test. Like, the lemon test means nothing. The lemon test only tells you that terrible glazes are terrible. It does not tell you that mediocre glazes are mediocre. And that's a classic one. And I'm going to put this dry erase test right there with it. Like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve, but if you're talking about food safety and durability, that comes down to chemical durability and interactions with acids and bases and water and heat and all these types of things. And it's got nothing to do with whether or not a dry erase sticks to it. And really, I'm begging to implore you all, like, if you want to figure out, the quality of whether or not your work will craze, fine. There is an ASTM standard about going between a hot oven and a cold, or not, actually not cold. It should be, well, actually, this is interesting. Freeze thaw tests are different than the crazing test.
Oh, they are. Yeah, you're right.
The crazing test is just trying to force something to craze. That's actually not the final be all end all of a craze test. For actual craze testing, you have to put it in an autoclave, and not like your tattoo artist has, a high pressure autoclave.
We just got one. It's exciting.
We did just get one. It's very cool. It's a giant bomb, you guys.
Yes.
It costs a ton of money because it gets up to 300 psi and could explode.
Yes, and it's hot.
Yeah, it gets hot. It's like seriously solid steel. It's a solid steel chamber.
It is.
But yeah, like these tests exist for a reason. And, I'm more than happy to lay out. I'm not going to go and read all the ASTMs right now because that's really boring. But yeah, everybody
please
just
don't.
let's be pro science in the next year of our lives. Let's really get down with what things really mean and stop trying to make me so exhausted. Rose and I have kids for that.
I know. Well, I just have one question. Matt, did you try it? I'm kidding. Let's move on to our questions. Okay. Oh, my Lord. All right. Our first question comes from Fiona in New Zealand, and Fiona has a new kiln. Yay for you, Fiona.
Hi, Matt, Rose and Kathy. It's Fiona calling from New Zealand with a question about matte glazes. My kiln has just arrived, my first ever kiln. I'm just beyond excited to start firing things myself. So what I really want to achieve is I'll be firing cone 6 oxidation. So I really want to make a series of matte glazes for tableware, plates, bowls, that kind of thing. So with a durable matte glaze, the glaze I want to start with is the Katz Burke Matte on Glazy, which I think you'll be familiar with. My question is really about firing to get the best result from a matte glaze. So the way I'm thinking, I kind of have 3 options, I think. So one would be to just do a standard cone 6 firing. My second option would be to do a cone 5 with a hold to achieve that cone 6. My third option, as I see it, would be to do a cone 6 with a slow cool to allow those crystals to develop. However, I'm just wondering, when we were developing recipes, should I keep the firing schedule as a fixed variable and adjust the recipe to suit? I don't want to, play around with 100 variables at once because that doesn't work. So should I just choose a firing schedule and adjust my recipe to suit? I'm going to be playing with the silica and alumina ratio to kind of determine the level of mattness and how satin I might like it to be. So that's one thing I will be testing. I'm really just interested on how I can get the best result in my kiln with matte 6 cone 6 matte glazes. I'm not looking for a fancy crystalline effect. I just want it to be a really good hard wearing matte. So, and as a bonus question, if you have any tips on reducing cutlery marking, I would really, really love your insight. Okay, thanks so much. This is like a 2-minute voice note. Sorry. All right, thanks. Bye.
Oh, Fiona, all you need is a new package of dry erase markers. Don't spend all that time thinking so darn hard about your kiln schedule and your glazes and all the variables. We figured it out.
Just a pack of dry erase markers. It'll tell you everything you need to know.
Get the multicolor so you can do different colors.
There was a lot there. So
there was.
Yes, there was.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, the first one I would really say is just pick a firing. I was talking with somebody about this recently I think one of the things that people in ceramics do that is one of the less productive behaviors is everybody tries to get like really creative in their firing cycles, and they go here and they stop here and they pause there and boy, yeah, none of that is of any value, everybody. Just get the darn thing fired.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Keep it simple. It really does make your life better. Everything that you've been told that you got to stop and hold here and wait here, it's all made up. There is no value to any of that. You need to, as we say all the time, complete that chemical reaction. That is what we're doing. And the chemical reaction takes place during the last 100 degrees C. Now, a couple of things. Fiona did say 5.5 with a hold. Man, just fire to cone 6. Again, that is people trying to get too creative.
Don't cook your cones. Yeah.
Don't
that's
cook
cooking
your cones.
Your cones.
Yep, absolutely. Heat is the goal, but it's about that completion of a chemical reaction. A lot of people are afraid of firing hotter because they think they're doing more damage to their kiln. You can go back to listen to the Freddy episode to get into the details of this, but like elements are on or off, you guys. There is no extra electricity. It is on or off.
It's not low electricity and then medium and then high.
No, it is on or off for longer or shorter periods of time. And I don't think it's possible to track this, but I would not be shocked if actually a cone 5 with a hold actually does more damage than just going to cone 6.
No,
because you
probably
have
use
to keep
more
that
energy.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because you have to keep it hotter for longer, and that's where our energy waste goes. So just fire to cone 6. Don't need to get special about it. The next one really is the more important one, which is matte glazes and special firings. And this is one, we'll put this up on our blog for this episode. But when we have a matte glaze, that is what we call a true matte glaze, which is when the chemistry says that this glaze is going to make these crystals inside your glaze. It makes no difference whatsoever how you cool that kiln. Slow cooling, fast cooling, matte glazes, as defined on Stahl's map, will always be matte. And I have tested this, and I will put the results up of actually the Katzberg matte in a fast cool and in a slow cool. And they look exactly the same. There is no difference because matte glazes are going to crystallize because what is inside their chemistry is going to get triggered no matter how you cool it. It's just a question of, does it have this chemistry and are you going to crystallize? Like literally it's like an A-B chemical decision inside the glaze. That does not mean that there are not glazes that are affected by slow cooling, but those are crystalline glazes, which is a completely different chemistry of crystal growing inside the glass, and they are completely and utterly different. But the Katzberg matte is a true matte glaze, so it does not care about slow cooling. And so when you're talking about like how to get the best firings, simple firings.
Well, first thing she should do is to calibrate her kiln.
Oh, the lady speaks the truth.
Yes. First thing you should do, calibrate it. It's in the instructions. Read them and do it. It'll save you a headache down the road.
Absolutely, because you're assuming your thermocouple's on point, and most likely it isn't. And we calibrate our kilns too, and you need to adjust them so you know what you're actually getting a firing to, because that will make your life better in the long term. But at the end of the day, as far as the firing is, all we care about is during the last 100 degrees C, what is that heating rate? And then what peak temperature you adjust to based on that heating rate. And that's what the cone chart tells us. I won't go over the whole cone chart right now, but that's what we care about. Ow. Okay, hold on, you guys. Get your cone charts. We got to talk.
Yeah. Everybody take out your cone charts.
I'll get my wallet one.
But that's what we care about. The last 100 degrees C, 180 degrees F. I will say, some people like to call me out when I say 180 degrees F because isn't 212C boiling? No, there's a difference between heating rate and actual temperature when you're talking about the CF conversion. It is 180 degrees F. That's all that we care about. So get to cone 6. I can tell you at cone 6, since you're a Kiwi, I can speak in C. Rest of you go away. 1222C at 60 degrees C per hour for the last 100 degrees C of the firing. If you have I don't know what kiln you have, the American kilns all have controllers made by Bartlett. If you just press medium, get a glaze as the heating rate in your Bartlett kiln, it does exactly that. Well, actually close to that. They get a little interpretive about their firing cycles, but it's close enough to call it good. And that's really what you need to do. But I wouldn't go and alter your chemistry unless that's a future thing that you really need to be concerned with. And we've talked on episodes in the past about how different glazes will react to different temperatures differently, but just go for one firing and then go from there. But definitely a cone 6. As far as the other questions, I mean, she was asking about cutlery marking. Rose, do you want to take that?
No, I think that's another whole other episode. I mean, Fiona's got a lot of work to do. I mean, granted. So I think the cutlery marking is a whole nother subject. It's a whole nother like full-time job, Fiona. So
Another conversation for another time.
Well, since we're on the subject of kilns, let me find another one. We're going to travel back to the States, and Cameron, who's in Santa Fe, New Mexico, had a question about kiln bricks.
Hello, Kathy, Rose, and Matt. This is Cameron from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I am hoping that you can talk a little bit about fire brick and kiln insulation. I'm working on transitioning from firing to cone 10 in a gas reduction kiln at my community studio to firing my work at home. And I'm looking at buying an electric kiln, but I want to continue firing to cone 10. I have learned so much from this podcast. I've listened to the Freddie Fredrickson episodes multiple times, so I feel like I have a pretty solid idea of what to look for in terms of wattage. I know I need type S thermocouples, and I thought that I understood that I would need a higher grade of fire brick. But as I'm exploring the range of commercial kilns out there, at least the ones that are kind of ready to buy and not custom built, I'm finding that even kilns marketed as production grade or commercial grade are mostly using K23 fire brick. And from what I understand, K23 is able to be fired up to 2,300 degrees, which is obviously not cone 10. I have so far found one single solitary kiln that is advertised as using K25 fire brick throughout, and I found one that uses K24 throughout. Otherwise, I'm pretty much just seeing K23 everywhere. Some kilns I've seen use K23 fire brick plus an extra layer of mineral wool or fiber insulation, or they say the walls are built with K23 and K25 is used in the arch or the floor. So basically my question is, what is up with fire brick? Are any of those fire brick configurations that use K23 even worth considering if I'm going to be firing regularly to cone 10? And if it's helpful, I'd probably be firing once a month on average. I guess what would be the minimum viable grades of fire brick for an electric kiln used for monthly cone 10 firings? And as a side note, I've also seen mention on online forums. I know that's the most terrifying way to start a sentence, but I want to ask this question. I've seen that K23 is actually a better insulator than higher grades of fire brick. Is that true? How does that figure in? What can you tell me about fire brick? Thank you so much in advance. Love the podcast. It is such a joy and a privilege to listen to and learn from the three of you.
Well, I did ask for details, so.
we got some details. It's good. Although K25?
That's a weird one. I'm not a brick expert.
I mean, I've heard K26, our kiln's made out of K26, but I mean, that's a custom kiln, but K25?
I would have to assume that there's all types of different gradations of brick quality. And, you know, it's certainly a possibility as to what they use. You know, every manufacturer is going to use something different, a different supplier, a different whatever. But yeah, in our life, and, you know, and admittedly, Rose and I are biased. We were both taught by Freddie. We were his students when we were in school. And so we know what Freddie always taught us. And he was sort of like, yeah, there's K23s and K26s. And, you know, I think that's the first thing that we should say is we are not kiln experts.
No.
We just have opinions.
Well, it got full of really a lot of opinions, but
I got that. We got that handled.
Not a kiln builder.
No, I can't tell you why the kiln builders do what they do. Well, I can speculate. But
no,
you know,
speculation here.
What my father always said, when you speculate, you make a speculum out of me and you. So
that's awful.
Well, you guys have listened to the show. You know what my dad did for a job. So the bricks, the 23 or 26 is referring to their peak temperature, right? That's the major thing. And 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit, chills down my spine, is 1260 C, which is just over cone 8. And if I had to speculate, what they are doing with that is saving money. Because bricks are expensive, and the fancier brick you have to buy, the cheaper or the more expensive that brick will be. And so is cone 8 good enough for most things? Yeah, sure. Especially if they're building kilns that are advertised as cone 6, then what do they care if it's if it is any higher? But that's perfectly fine for what it is. K26 is just a higher temperature, and so it is more rugged. You're asking about these kilns, and Rose, have you noticed on our bisque kiln what is going on in the bricks in that kiln?
Oh, that they're cracking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah, it's seen better days, and it's on the downward spiral.
How old is it?
Not that old.
Oh, but
8
you
or
guys
9
like
years.
fire things a gazillion times
Yeah, we
more
do.
than we would
do.
ever.
We use and abuse, definitely.
Yeah. This one has been relegated to being just our bisque kiln, but I did the last element change on it, so Rose may not have noticed this, but the bricks are also melting in the grooves.
No way.
Not a lot, but they are definitely melting inside the grooves where they cut for the bricks.
Oh my gosh. And it's only a bisque kiln.
Well, we fired at a higher temperature for a long time.
Yeah, but it's still degrading, you think?
Yeah. Now this is a kiln. Again, I won't name the manufacturer. This was an off-the-shelf kiln. This is from a known kiln company, and they are one that sell with the extra jacket of insulation. So they put another layer of insulation around it, and they justify that that's how they get the kiln to cone 10. But I believe, again, we bought this kiln years ago, and I have to go back and look at the documentation. I'm 99% sure that those are K23 bricks in there, but it is advertised as the cone 10 kiln, and we bought it to fire to cone 10. We fire to cone 10 all the time, but the bricks are cracking, or checking, it's sometimes called, and it is melting under where the elements are. And that is a sign that those bricks are being overfired. And so why did they do that? I mean, it might be that they want to call it good enough. I mean, if you want to get real nefarious, you could say that it's a planned obsolescence situation, because if you keep firing it to cone 10, it's going to crack and it's going to break and all that. But I can't tell you why they do it, but I can tell you that it is definitely going to be cheaper. I don't have current numbers on this, but the last time I grabbed these numbers, a K23 brick was much cheaper than a K26 brick, about $4.75 versus $6.25. Again, this is actually an old document. I probably grabbed this
I gotta say,
years
those
ago.
numbers aren't right anymore.
No, I know, but $1.50 difference per brick, certainly can build up and can cost you a lot of money. And, I understand the stress of the kiln companies. I get it. I think that, they're doing the best that they can and they're trying to put them out there, but there are definitely decisions that are made that if you asked me why they are, I cannot think of a technical reason why, is what I can say. Like, the only thing that comes to my mind is cost. And that's it. So if you're planning on going to cone 10, buy as much kiln as possible. And that is always my advice to our students. I always say sacrifice size for quality, because almost everything that is sold as an optional extra on kilns these days is actually what you really need. And that there is a lot of reverse engineering to save on cost to make it cheaper and then get you to upgrade to what you really need. And that's, I mean, it's a hard thing. And I would love for a kiln builder to come on the show, a commercial kiln builder. If you are a commercial kiln builder and you're listening to the show, first of all, contact our sponsorship team, sponsor the show. I'll still speak honestly, but we'd love to have you sponsor the show. We're looking for sponsors, everybody.
We're not proud. Yeah.
No, we are not proud. Hey, man. But I would love to talk to you. But every time we've reached out to commercial companies, boy, they don't want to talk with us. So
is
come
there
on, be
a
honest.
commercial kiln company that just sends or sells a Cone 10 electric kiln?
I mean, they advertise them.
They do? Okay.
This kiln, y'all can Google this and you'll find out who it is. I won't name it, but their sales pitch, at least at the time, I haven't looked recently, was the Cone 10 kiln.
All right.
And that they had this extra jacket of insulation, which is why I bought it, knowing that the insulation was better, would retain heat better. Because we always say a kiln is not a box for generating heat. A kiln is a box for retaining heat. And so that is definitely what we need to be aware of. I will say that, Cameron, the one thing about people saying that K23s are a better insulator, like, no, that's not how this works.
I mean, unless they're referring to hard brick, but that's a different brick on totally.
What I will say is I have seen speculated, and I forget whether I asked Freddie about this or not, that not just do bricks start to check and shrink and slightly melt if you overfire them, but I have heard that if you bypass their effective temperature, they are worse at retaining heat. That I have heard. I cannot say whether that is true. I don't study the thermodynamics of kiln bricks. Again, love to have somebody on the show talk to us about this. Please send us a contact. If you are listening, please, we'd love to have you. It'd be an open and honest conversation. That's all we ask for. But that's what I can say that I know.
Well, for anybody, I learned so much from your episodes with Freddie. And if anybody hasn't listened to those, you can go back and look for episodes 64 and 65 of the podcast and give those a listen, because it's really so informative, stuff that I hadn't known about in 25 years of doing this. So it's worth a listen. There are a lot of things I don't know after 25 years of doing this. But
it's amazing what you unlearn.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's because we chose ceramics and not like watercolor or
painting.
Well, that is all the time we have today, Matt and Rose. So until I see you again.
Oh, we'll see you later, Kathy.
See you, Kathy.
Well, folks, that's it for this week's episode of For Flux Sake. I'd like to thank the listeners who submitted questions this week. And if you want your question answered on the show, shoot us an email at ForFluxSakePodcast@gmail.com. So join us next time. And when in your studio, remember what Rose always says.
Always remember to test, test, test. This is a test of the emergency glaze system. Beep.